In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a fairly complex RC circuit, and we're going to simplify it down to find the current as soon as the switch closes at time equals 0, and then find the current when the capacitors have reached their steady state after a long time. Now, taking a look at this RC circuit initially looks a bit complicated, but it's actually a little bit more simple than you would think. So I see 3 capacitors in this picture right now, the blue, orange, and purple one. And as soon as the switch is closed, all 3 of those temporarily act as a short. So if you just ignore all 3 of those, they basically have no resistance, and you can basically treat them as a wire. With that being said, as the current is flowing around, everything is going to definitely flow through the 20 ohm resistor. And then since this 100 is going to act as a short, they will flow through the 50 and then also go to this second branch over here and then flow through the 25. But as soon as they have the option to go between the 40 and the 120, they are going to go through the capacitor because the capacitor is a temporary short. And then as they go through this little last parallel chunk, similar to this little parallel chunk over here, they are going to skip over this 10 and then go right through this top portion and then back around. So now let's go ahead and find the current as soon as that switch is closed at time equals 0. So let's take a look at how much resistance the charges are going to be going through. So we have 20 ohms plus, and then we have a parallel chunk where it has a 50 and 25 ohm resistor. So let's do a little side calculation here. We have 1 over 25 plus 1 over 50. So remember, you have to add up the inverses and set it equal to the inverse of RT in order to find our total resistance for that parallel chunk. And then 1 over 25 plus 1 over 50 equals 3 over 50. And then the inverse of that is going to be 50 over 3, 16.67 ohms. All right, so let's go ahead and add that to our 20. And then lastly, we are going through the 20 and then through this parallel chunk over here with the 50 and 25, and then it's going to pass through that top part of the branch, and that's basically it. And then we can take our 50 volts and then place our total resistance right beneath it, which is 36.67, the sum of these two. And then we get 1.365, so let's go ahead and round that to 1.37 amps. Now, that's the current as soon as a switch is closed. The switch would probably be right over here to complete that circuit. And then let's take a look at a second scenario to where we're going to find the current after a long time. So after the capacitors have reached their steady state. Now as the charges flow through the circuit, they're going to act much differently because those capacitors are going to be fully charged and not allow any current to pass through. So with that being said, they will for sure still go through the 20. They won't go through this branch. As you see, there's a capacitor right over here. And they will go through this branch, but not to this outer branch, but it will pass through the 40 this time. And then now, instead of going through the top path, it's going to go through the 10 and then back around. So this time, when we sum up our resistors, we basically have a 20, 40, and 10 all in a series with one another. And the 25 as well. So the 20, 25, 40, and the 10. which is going to leave us with 95 ohms total. So much more resistance. And then we're going to use Ohm's law once again. And then we're going to do 50 volts divided by 95 ohms. And that's going to leave us with a current of 0.53 amps. So, of course, you're going to have to make sure you have some foundational knowledge about how to find the total resistance of some series and parallel chunks of the circuit. But other than that, as soon as the switch is closed at time equals 0, treat those capacitors as a temporary short. And then after they've reached their steady state, go ahead and treat them like a barricade that is blocking the current and have the charges flow around them to find your total resistance and then your current. So I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you for watching and listening.